this video, you're going to see this really cool dining room table restored back to new. Now, what happens often with dining room tables is that over the years, wear and tear, if it's not properly maintained, like with wood oils and stuff like that, wood tends to dry out. Plus, you get water on there and it stains. So the top of the table can break down really quickly over time. What's often the case, though, is the underneath actually holds up quite well. So not a lot to do on the bottom. It's all about the top. So instead of doing it traditionally with staining and sanding and putting a lacquer on top, I'm going to wrap it with Dyno. What's cool about Dyno is you just flip it through. It starts with the wood grains, goes light to dark, and you really want to find the grain and the color that matches. So you just can actually pull it out of the book, stick it on the object. Right here is a really, really close match, so that's what we're going to go with. In this case, you want to make it has extensions, so around 2.5 yards or almost like 2 meters of material. It's all about prep with Dyno, especially on old tables like this. You want to cut out the old sections that aren't sticking. Then you fill it in. You want to use Bondo. Generally use 2 layers, so you fill it thick, sand it, fill it again, and it's all about making it hyper smooth. Because Dyno is 8 mil thick, really shows any type of bumps underneath the material, so you really want to make sure that the surface is really, really clean. This is being done on a construction site or a renovation on a house. So put a drop cloth on the floor, make sure it's super clean, because now that the table is prepped, it's all about keeping it a clean area. Wipe it down with isopropyl alcohol and never want to use soap and water. Once the table is clean, it's all about using Primer 94. Want to put Primer 94 on any areas that were filled, and then it's extremely important to make sure you get 100% coverage on all the edges. Be super thorough, do a 360, and make sure that the Primer 94 really goes into the wood. Wood is notoriously low surface energy, but if it's prepped well and in good condition, Dyno will hold on really, really well. So you see, even on this large section, putting Primer 94 on 100% of that area. Then you want to make sure you cut a right amount of material. So in this case, just kind of spreading the material out. It doesn't have to be exact because you want to have extra material in this case because you're wrapping behind or underneath the table. So 6 inches left, right, top to bottom. In this case, there's extensions as well. So here you want to cut pretty precise. You can use the grid on the back to guide your blade. This is going to be rolled up for later, so in this case, the main table is going to be wrapped first, then the extension second. Super important to make the backing paper clean, and then remove the extensions for later so you have access to the underside of the table. Very important to take those out. Once the extensions are removed and put safely aside, because they're all prepped, you don't want to get them dirty, the only prep you have to do on the backing paper here is do what's called a zipper cut. There's 2 cuts on the backing paper, but don't take the backing paper off. That's protecting the adhesive from touching. With Dyno material, especially when working on old tables like this, it's very important to keep in mind that it's a one-shot deal. You're not going to put the Dyno down and reposition it. You really want to just squeegee once. That's why you just create a little swath of the backing paper right there. Squeegee down, permanent hinge. Keep the backing paper on. Very important to keep that 10-degree angle away from the table. Then squeegee left to right. The adhesive does have Comply, which is the air aggressive feature, so you're not going to get bubbles, but it doesn't have control tack, so it doesn't slide super easy, and once it touches, it really touches, so game over. So notice keeping the backing paper on, working about 6 inches increments. Be super patient here. Slow and steady wins the race here. Now to the corners. Corners are very important to get right here because we're going to go in super deep, no relief cut, one-piece corners. Because Dyno is a multi-layered film, you want to heat it super thorough left to right and get around solid at like 8 inches or around 20 centimeters on either side. Then use a triangle shape, pull left and right around the corner, and jimmy it down and relax it. That evens out the tension nice and even on the base of the corner, and then shift the tension to the sides because those middle areas, those flat areas can take the tension. Here there's a little bit of tension, so just relax it, but the free hand's not pulling, just kind of holding your way, because not only do you not want to overstretch the Dyno because it might fail, but you also want to keep those grains even of the wood. So very important not to overstretch it there, not only for durability, but also for just visual. Now that the top areas are done, the corners and the main part of the table, it needs to be flipped over because it has to be wrapped farther underneath. Be very careful here not to scratch the Dyno that was just put on. Even though it's super durable, you never want to damage it before the client gets it. So put a cloth on the frame right there so it doesn't scratch. Now here's where it gets a little nuanced with Dyno right now, is it has to be taken back about a 1/4 inch from the edge. If you cut it right on the edge right there, there's too much tension, not because it's necessarily the surface, but just because of the nature of Dyno film and being multi-layered. It does need to go back farther around the edges if it's wrapped in one piece. So here, really relaxing and working in stages Notice using the hard part of my squeegee to just barely nudge the film to the left and right from the center point of that corner right there. Very important to shift it, heating high and then shifting in just baby increments. Patience is the key here and not forcing it too much. Temptation is just to heat it, stretch it, pull it, stick it down, but that will cause it to fail. It's all about shifting the material to the sides and working in baby increments. Again, not only for avoid overstretching, but keeping those grains symmetrical where it's nice and even. But you can see that the grains on the outside portion of this table look really good and symmetrical. If it stretches a little bit underneath, it's not a problem because no one's really going to see it so much. But it's all about making it nice and smooth. Now that it's ready to be cut, all four corners are ready to go. Keep that blade at a 10-degree angle, a very light touch. Because Dyno is super thick, you're going to have to cut harder than normal if you're used to just working, let's say, with color change film or full print film, so you're going to have to practice that. That's why you should always save your scraps. Now that the main table is wrapped, it's all about wrapping the extensions. So same cut as before, simply a zipper cut right in the middle. Flip the panel, you can see some dust in the air right there, so always make sure you use a tack cloth. You can see that your those match with the grains. Once you flip the panel over, simply squeegee down, nice and easy. So same thing as the main area. These front corners, exactly the same as the main portion of the table. Heat, super thorough. Make sure you heat it left and right, and then shimmy it down right around the corner. So once you get these two round corners on this side done, then you can squeegee the material into the middle. But what's interesting about the extensions is they have two different corners on the back. They're 90 degrees, which we'll get to in a second. So once you relax the material onto the front two round corners and they're set, then you can shift to the back. So you can see the tension right there on the right, shimmy it down, nice and easy. Once it's locked to the edge, super cool. Now for the back, simply cold cut the back right there. So again, no need to wrap deep behind because it's a flat surface. Relief cuts on the corners, standard overlaps on the basic back corner right there. So no one piece on the corners, just cut flush to the edge, nice and easy, no tension. But for the rounded corners, you have to flip and wrap behind. What's nice about these extensions, you just slide them back in upside down and it holds nice and easy. So no need to have an extra set of hands to hold it or put it down on the table. You can actually stick it under the table and the table's holding it for me. Very cool stuff. Same thing as what you just saw earlier. Relax, form around the corner, and then cut once it's all set. Now that it's all set, it's about putting the table back together and then finishing it off. And there's no need to post-heat Dyno. Once you get those corners set with Primer 94 and proper cleaning and with minimal tension, they will hold for the long term. Now, once the top of the tables are done with Dyno, it's about finishing just the legs, and here just wiping them down with a wood oil. This not only cleans but also protects. So you're not going to wrap the underside of the table. That's not for Dyno. Dyno is mainly for moderate curves and flat areas. And here's the finished result. Looks super cool, way better than it did before. Big transformation. And what's great about Dyno is these water stains generally could have hurt the old table, but with Dyno they simply just wipe off nice and easy, and extremely durable Dyno is. So that's why they're perfectly ideal for tables, especially ones that are going to be used on a regular basis. No need to keep them fresh with oil and all that kind of stuff. And that's the beauty of using Dyno for old tables like this. Makes them new and they last longer. And now for the wrap up. The prep time was a solid 3 hours. Lots of sanding, filling. Install time 1.5. Those corners were a little tricky, but once you get those nailed, it's pretty straightforward. Total material 2.5 yards, around 2.2 meters. Dyno material used fine wood 625. So instead of throwing out this old table and buying a new one, which can be costly, or having someone come in and sand it, finish it, stain it, all that kind of stuff, which can be very expensive as well. Simply took a few meters of Dyno, wrapped the material, prepped it, and then you have a brand new table. Really good stuff, and that is the beauty of Dyno. Thanks for watching. Justin.